Welcome to Human or Athlete. I'm super excited to bring a different kind of guest to today's week from all kind of the footballer or soccer base for you, Eric. Athletes in my network. We're kind of broadening out and getting a different type of different type of person on the show. So I'm super delighted to introduce Eric, who it's going to take me a while to go through the accomplishments, but Ironman athlete, CrossFit athlete, and so many other businesses and restaurants and 10,000 a clothing brand owner. So it's super cool to have you on here, Eric. So jumping straight in, you obviously you've been through a lot. Would it be possible if you kind of break down your story and what you've been through for the people that don't know it?
I just kind of refound my love for fitness, and I signed up for a sprint triathlon, really enjoyed it. I loved that it was similar to entrepreneurship in that the results are directly correlated to how much, purposeful practice you put in. So I did the sprint triathlon. I almost drowned in the swim. I passed a bunch of people on the bike. I passed more people on the run. And I just felt it was something where if I put in a bunch of time and effort, I could really exceed at it. And I loved all of the disciplines with the exception of the swimming, but I wanted to learn to be a good swimmer. So yeah, and then I signed up for an Olympic distance triathlon that led to a half Ironman. When I finished my first half Ironman in 2010, I told my girlfriend at the time that I would never do that again. It was a horrible idea. And then 30 minutes later, I'm like, I think I'm going to sign up for a full Ironman. So I did, and I've done 5 full Ironmans now. I qualified for the Ironman World Championships and raced the championships in Kona, Hawaii twice in 2013 and 2014. And I opened up a CrossFit gym during those years as well. All through my triathlon years, I was doing CrossFit type workouts. I wasn't training like a CrossFit athlete, but I was doing a lot of the Metcons and a lot of the high intensity workouts. And in 2016, I kind of switched gears and started doing more of the heavy lifting, Olympic lifting, gymnastics. And the last few years, 2016 to 2021, it's been more, just doing stuff for lifestyle. So I still really enjoy, doing CrossFit type workouts, training like a CrossFit athlete. And I also love mountain biking. I've done Leadville now once. I'm signed up for the Leadville 100-mile mountain bike race again this August. Um, and I'll do like endurance trail races here and there. I'm doing this High Rocks competition in April, which is like a functional fitness type event. And then I do a ton of recovery stuff. I'm 40 now, so I have to really focus on recovery in order to be able to train the high volume that I like to train. So I actually just finished up doing an infrared sauna session. I have an ice barrel at home, so I do cold exposure. I sit in cold streams almost every single day. So I'm a huge proponent of heat and ice, in addition to obviously moving every day.
I love it. What a story. What also kind of you do, obviously I know you do a lot off kind of or outside of all this, high volume activity. How important is it for you to kind of balance or how do you balance sport but also life? Because obviously so many athletes are, even doing it professionally, and then there's kind of this myth that you can't do anything outside of that, especially in football, soccer.
Sure. So, my day to day, what you would consider work now is content creation for different brands I work with. And,
Hmm.
I make sure all of those brands fit in with my lifestyle. So I'm
Hmm.
essentially just documenting my day, documenting my training, what I'm wearing during it, the supplements and nutritional products that I'm using, skincare products that I use, the headphones I use, the shoes I wear. So, it really blends well with my day, and just I had to learn photography and videography to be able to do a good job documenting my days. But during those Ironman years, I was running an insurance agency. I was a co-founder of a software company. I had started a gym, and in 2016 I started investing in some different restaurant concepts. So in those years I was very structured with, this is when I'm doing my training. This is when I'll take meetings. Everything else was outsourced. I mean, I wasn't going to a grocery store. Everything was just being
Hmm.
delivered or on auto subscription on Amazon. it's really just figuring out how can you eliminate, delegate, or automate everything to allow yourself to do only what you can do and you can do best. And during that time period, I had very defined roles within my companies of what my day to day was within those companies. I was training 3 hours a day and recovering, and I did sacrifice a lot. I mean, I wasn't going out at night, I wasn't traveling a ton, so there were sacrifices I had to make back then. My schedule is more flexible now. I'm still involved in a number of companies, but not on an operational standpoint. So
Gotcha.
while it may look like a lot, my day to day within those companies is very minimal. So day to day now is really just the content creation, and by saying that, it's really just documenting my days.
Did you plan to kind of have the content creation part of your like how you live your life now as a job, or was that kind of did that come naturally?
I really fell into it. No,
Mm-hmm.
I had the time to train to become an athlete. Through becoming an athlete, I developed a following on social media, and I just noticed in like 2015, 2016 that a lot of companies were starting to reach out to me and
Mm-hmm.
sending product, inviting me on trips, and there was just kind of an aha moment during that time period
Mm-hmm.
that wow, I need to really think of Instagram specifically as like a business and as a brand. And, how can I add value so that my audience wants to tune in on a regular basis? And, how can I really like add value for different brands I'm working with? So, I started working with smaller brands where I could really move the needle for them. I could introduce them to other influential people within the space.
Mm-hmm.
I could introduce them to distribution partners. I could create content for them that they could use on their feed. Obviously, I could promote their products, but I was kind of bundling a lot of different services: consultant, marketing agency, photographer, promoter, and that's kind of become my niche within the space. So again, I like working with a company like Lane 8 or 10,000 where not everyone has already heard of them. And I'm not just a billboard for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're leveraging my network. They're leveraging my ability to
Mm-hmm.
create content that they can post on their feed. So it's more than just, thinking I'm gonna really convert sales by posting a picture.
Yeah, I love it. You obviously like giving a lot, so yeah, I love it. It's going back to that structure you talked about in that routine. I know you've spoken about kind of the how important routine is for you. What happens, especially in that kind of past self, in that space you were in? What happens when it goes wrong? Like the structure, the routine, things just kind of fall apart on those days. What do you do in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously bound to happen. And I just try to get back into a routine as soon as possible. So I've also really thought through like what can get in the way of my routine and what can get in the way of like my happiness in doing a lot of this stuff. So I'll give you an example. Um, I mountain bike on a regular basis, and I typically mountain bike in the same places where I know I'm not going to hit a lot of traffic, where I know the terrain. So it's not, I'm not risking new terrain where it's more likely that I'm going to have an accident, which would inhibit my ability to
Mm-hmm.
train on future days. Whereas if I get invited to go skiing, I enjoy skiing, but there's a lot of things that can get in the way of my happiness, or that could uh that could debilitate me to be able to do what I enjoy every day. The risk of getting injured skiing when I don't ski often, the risk of traffic driving out to the mountains, the risk of a
Mm-hmm.
snowstorm, preventing me from getting back. So, over the years, I've developed this thought pattern of how can I limit outside sources getting in the way of my
Mm-hmm.
routine that is really dialed in. So, there's no perfect answer to that. It's really just it's a thought process of, thinking through each of your decisions. And, over time you start to realize the decisions where, oh shit, that can lead to derailing my day to day. I'm not going to do that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like so. It's like kind of yeah, obviously they say that you can't control what happens in your environment, but you can control what is your environment in itself, like in the
Exactly.
big picture. And so if you know like the people you're around, the places you go, then you know what's going to happen in them as much as possible, then you're going to get the best rewards.
Yeah, and
um
choosing your environment is super important. I mean, I live in Denver, Colorado, and that environment breeds being able to be outside every single day. The
mhm,
sun is out almost every single day. The weather's nice. The humidity is low, so it just begs you to be outside. Whereas my girlfriend lives in Greenville, South Carolina, which I enjoy Greenville, but it rains here more often. It's humid, so
mhm,
your
mhm.
environment can dictate a lot of if you're seeking a routine that lends itself well to nice weather, then you better be in an environment that provides nice weather, because I can't control the weather every day, but I can pick where I live to live in a place where it's
Mhm.
going to typically be nice weather, so I can train often.
I wish I could say the same in Manchester.
Yeah, in Manchester, cold and rainy often.
Exactly. But you talk about that happiness, and some people would argue and say, "Oh, what really is great for my happiness is experiencing new trails as often as possible, and
Sure.
really kind of getting that variety of, oh, this is new. How do I adapt to this?" What would you kind of argue back and say, like, the opposite to that, and what is important to your happiness in a way?
Yeah, well, I do that. I mean, I'll venture off on new trails. I just know that may not be as good of a training day, because I'm going to have to go a bit
Mm-hmm.
slower to learn the trail.
Yeah.
I don't know how much bike traffic is going to be on the trail. So, I do go to other places. I mean, I'll typically read a lot of reviews prior to make sure it's not a busy
Mm-hmm.
trail, or I'll go on off hours. So I still, again, try to, reduce the ability of something getting in the way. But, um, it all depends what your goal is with it. I mean, if you're
Mm-hmm.
doing this for lifestyle and you just want to be out connecting with nature, then yeah, it's incredible going to
Mm-hmm.
new places. I do that with hiking. Hiking for me, I don't consider to be training. It's connecting with nature, it's spending time with my girlfriend, and it's taking in new sights. So I go in with that expectation for going on hikes, whereas, mountain biking for me is often training. So I want to be in familiar surroundings where I can somewhat control, again, the environment.
Mm-hmm. It's great to kind of see how well you know yourself and what you want out of yourself, and that I'd say kind of that self awareness and self understanding to this is what I expect, this is what I'm going to go out and get.
Yep.
No, I love that. Obviously, kind of from you reading your resume and talking to your story, you've gone out and just done a whole lot of different things and all these things, and you've explored so much. Is there kind of a purpose behind it all, in like why you've dipped in and out, or is it just that exploration? I try this, figured out a niche here.
Yeah, I like to tell people I like to design perfect days, and when I no longer feel like I have a perfect day going because I've lost passion and purpose for something within that day, then I switch gears. So, each of my life chapters has really been just that. It's what
Mm-hmm.
makes my heart sing during that time period, and when it's no longer singing, I'm not perfect at it, but I'm getting much better. I'm an all in or all out type of person. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'll usually just say, okay, this isn't working for me anymore. I don't feel fulfilled. So I'm out and I find something new that I really enjoy, and I go all in on that.
Is there any kind of fear that like of starting again, and like even if you're doing well or whatever, that transition?
100%. I mean, with anything though, like practice will help eliminate the stress around it. So,
Mm-hmm.
I've practiced, starting a lot. I've started a lot of businesses. Some have failed. I've done different sports and done well in some and haven't done well in some. So the more you practice, starting, changing your environment,
Mm-hmm.
just changing it up, the less scary it becomes.
100%.
I moved from upstate New York to Denver 4 years ago. From the outside perspective, I had it all in upstate New York, but I just wasn't happy there anymore. So I made the jump, and, it was an incredible move. I was much happier being in an environment where, I could be outside connecting with nature on a regular basis. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where the more you do it, the better you become at just like ripping the band-aid off and starting.
I love it. When you said jump, it always reminds me of the quote of when you feel scared to jump, that's exactly when you jump.
Yeah, it's true.
With so much doing, and like you're training hard, you're always kind of, I can get that feeling that you're always kind of like firing at 100. how do you kind of slow down and balance that with just like, I need some time for myself. I don't want to lose myself in everything. How do you kind of be and slow down in that?
Yeah, well, solitude. Every single day, I'm biking in solitude. Most of my running training, I'm doing it in solitude, and I purposely do that. I don't really enjoy doing those activities with other people because that's my me
Mm-hmm.
time when I just want to be in solitude without any other stimuli around. Um, and, with that said, I also like giving my complete presence in whatever I'm doing. So,
Mm-hmm.
for those activities, I want my complete presence in that activity. When I'm speaking with someone like you right now, like I want to give you my full presence. And I know myself well enough that I try and combine, doing that with, having a good conversation with someone. Like I'm not going to do either really well. So I try to design my days around full presence for each activity that I'm doing.
Yeah. Would you say kind of the running and the biking is quite meditative for you?
It definitely is medicine. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And going on that track again with, rest, that's something the last couple of years I've really had to learn I needed. Specifically like yoga and,
Mm-hmm.
meditation, sauna, cold exposure. I do those every single day. So there was a time period where it was just like go hard, no breaks. And yeah, we have, from a physical and mental standpoint. And yeah, I mean, it takes doing that to realize, like, wow, I'm not functioning at my optimal level right now because I'm just going too fast and I have too many balls I'm juggling right now. So, yeah, yoga for me definitely helped just with, calming my mind and realizing I do much better when I have a calm mind. And I have to
Mm-hmm.
practice different activities that calm my mind. And, if I go to New York City and I'm involved with like lots of stimuli, A, I don't feel like the best version of myself. And B, I know that when I get back to Colorado, I need a couple days of like being in solitude because I had just been bombarded by, so much stimuli being in a big city.
Yeah, it's. I love how you know yourself, and to do that, is it something you've just practiced in that awareness, or is it just kind of come with time and age in a way?
Yeah, I mean, time and age, definitely. And just
Mm-hmm.
being mindful. Again, it really goes back to like not just going through the motions and understanding like your operating manual and everyone's is
Mm-hmm.
different. So yeah, I've become very mindful of, this is bringing me positive energy, this environment, these people, these activities, or, on the reverse, these people, these activities, these environments, my mind is wandering. I'm anxious. I'm not in the present moment. So it's cutting those things out and doing more where I'm completely present in what I'm doing because that means I'm likely enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. That's something we've talked about quite a few times. I don't know if you've heard, but it's kind of like if you love what you do and there's so much enjoyment in it, you're naturally going to be present.
Yeah.
And like it just, they come together because that love comes from that curiosity
Yep.
to how do I explore this? How do I get better? How do I work this out? And then from there, when you're loving and you're present, the growth, and then you get all the ego stuff, which is the contracts, the money, the success, and everything on top of that. So it kind of, I love that you're kind of basing your like what to do off your experience as to how present you are. It's a really cool kind of perspective.
Yeah.
What kind of for you, because like you obviously you compete in your Ironmans, I know you do a bit in the CrossFit Open. I see you're doing pretty well at the moment. um, and how obviously in football or soccer it's very different in terms of we base our lives around contracts. You get a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year contract, and then you obviously try and play and get into the first teams.
Mm-hmm.
For you, it's very much like you're free reign. I want to go compete. I want to challenge myself here. How do you approach that? Is there set outcomes, or is it like you just kind of said, like, let me just go and enjoy this and be present and see what happens with the result?
It's shifted over time. I mean, in my Ironman years, it was very outcome driven. Everything I was
Mm-hmm.
doing was to get to the Ironman World Championships and have a great race
Yeah.
there. But then I realized that a lot of that I was doing more for public perception than I was doing. Like I liked the
Mm.
training even more than I liked, doing well in a race. Like the training every day was what really fulfilled me, embracing the process. So that's more of what I do now today is I just want to enjoy my days, enjoy what I'm doing. I want to push myself and compete against myself. And, if either an opportunity comes up or a competition I enjoy comes up, then I'll do it. Um, but I'm not doing it anymore to like, I want to get first place in this. Like, I just don't
Hmm.
think that way anymore. If it happens, great. That's a testament to my days that I executed very purposeful training and purposeful recovery and nutrition and sleep, all the things that go with it. But yeah, it's not really thinking about the outcome anymore because I just feel like that's competing against others, and I would prefer to just compete against myself and again be the best version of myself.
How did you do in the World Championships? I never could quite figure that out.
I finished, I think 199 overall in
Amazing.
2014. That was my best
That's
finish.
crazy. That's crazy. That's yeah. Ironman's ridiculous. It's definitely something after football for my future. So I'm gonna have to ask for some tips. But yeah, and how did you go through that transition from it being kind of ego based around other people to working out this actually isn't fulfilling me anymore? It's actually that process.
It was really the Ironman years, and it was shifting from being known as an elite Ironman athlete in
Hmm.
2014 to not really enjoying it anymore. Spending 6 months doing it, training still high volume, but not really enjoying the training. Not looking forward to races, and I had like a major identity crisis then of like, okay, well, if
Hmm.
I don't continue doing Ironman, like who am I? And I
Hmm.
realized that I was doing it for the public perception of being an elite Ironman instead of like really enjoying my days. So, I mean, it was like a 1 year process of really coming to the terms with like, I want to do this for myself. I want to feel good day in and day out. I want to train more for like longevity than I want to, like pound myself into the ground to win something. But then, am I really doing myself justice down the road by doing that?
Yeah, I fully get that. It's crazy. In that kind of mindset, how did you, and in that year process, how did you kind of rebuild that identity? Because it takes a lot of courage and also kind of honesty with yourself to
Yeah.
just kind of go, what do I do now? How was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was being comfortable in my own skin and feeling like I was enough. And
Hmm.
I during that time period is when I was starting to build a brand on social media, and I realized, how many people I was touching and inspiring to just move more and like, design their life around health and wellness because every other aspect of their life is going to improve if they feel good and they're healthy and they're exuding positive energy. So, it was kind of shifting to like, what can I give others through doing what I enjoy day in and day out. And, ultimately that allowed me to feel like, okay, I can do what I love every single day and I can give back by doing what I love because a lot of these people are taking my workouts, taking my, advice. I'm inspiring them to, try a cold shower, to try an ice bath. And so yeah, it was really just those two things.
I love it. It's so crazy when people kind of change in that identity from self-focused to others focused,
Mm-hmm.
and that for me that's one of the keys to working out, that it's not about you in a way. It's complete, I think it said self-centeredness is the source of suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and that that's where it all is, and by focusing on others, like, you're never alone and all you can do is give. So it's a beautiful kind of revelation and something you figured out on your own. So like, a lot of respect and also courage um, taken in that. How has kind of, with that identity crisis, how has fear been a part of your life throughout everything in a way?
Sure. I mean, fear is natural.
Hmm.
And it's again one of those things that, if you practice things that bring you fear, you're going to get much better at managing the stress around it. So, I mean, one example, honestly, is the cold exposure. I've been doing that for 4 years,
Hmm.
either sitting in a cold stream, taking an ice bath almost every single day. And, that's something that just like trains your nervous system to
Hmm.
adapt to stress around fear and things that make people anxious. So, it's not just it's not just allowing you to sit in cold water. Like, there's so many other lessons that come from
Hmm.
it. And the same goes for extreme heat, the same goes for starting multiple businesses, the same goes for doing Leadville or doing an Ironman, where these things, like, in the moment they hurt, and they're gonna hurt, and there's some anxiety leading up to it. I mean, that's one of the nice things that I still do enjoy about competition, is it does bring me a little fear and
Hmm.
anxiety of, how am I going to do, based on everything I've been doing leading up to this. Have I done enough?
Hmm.
So again, it's just one of those things where you have to practice that often, and the more you practice it, the less stress there's going to be around that fear.
I think it's obviously become quite a trend. Look at people like Goggins and stuff like that of going towards fear and opening that fear door. But there really is kind of a deeper thing to it, like you just said, in that there's actually kind of a lot more positivity than you see these guys like Goggins who obviously they're very like do like life's all about this, life's all about suffering, but you realize there's kind of like a beauty in the suffering and in understanding it and feeling it and exposing yourself to it with awareness. And it's a really cool process when you take that step to go, okay, let me explore what this feels like, let me go into these competitions, let me do this cold exposure. So it becomes something you can have curiosity and awareness towards, rather than something, oh, I'm just going to throw myself head first into it. Let's experiment with this fear. What does it feel like?
Exactly.
And then obviously then you kind of become unstoppable because that fear becomes understandable, which is super cool. um, I've got a good question for you. Happiness or growth, what comes first?
uh I mean, for me, they're combined. I need growth in order to have happiness. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I do what I do every single day. I enjoy, just trying to be the best version of myself on a regular basis. So, um, happiness is 100% tied to growth for me, but I'm going to choose happiness, first and foremost. What are those things that make me happy? Growth is one of them. Um, and growth also is coming some from the stillness, coming from yoga, coming from things that aren't providing what you would consider like physical growth, but they're
Mm-hmm.
providing mental growth. So yeah, they're directly correlated.
I love that answer. It yeah, it says a lot because I always think that happiness comes first. Happiness allows growth in a way. It,
Yep.
it it's the what if you're gonna grow from a place of negativity, where are you actually going? Like where is that taking you? Why are you? It becomes like a need, and then it becomes a thing about like identity, or it becomes about other people. So that's a beautiful thing, and that ties I think perfectly into your kind of chasing perfect days. How, like, where did that come from? Like, where, how important is that, like, everything to you now?
Um, I mean, it came through kind of that identity shift of
Yeah.
realizing that, even though it looked like everything was great from the outside, like internally it wasn't. So I had to shift my perspective, and I had to figure out like what's going to make my heart sing day in and day out. What's my routine? What can I do that isn't doing things for others? What isn't ego driven? So, it yeah, it was really just being mindful of that, and then designing my days around, again, an environment, people, activities that were just bringing me positive energy and allowing me to exude positive energy.
I love that. How do you see yourself? With that said, exactly. How do you see yourself now? What is that kind of ego like in your identity now?
I mean, your ego is always going to be there. It's not something that
Mm-hmm.
you can completely strip away, but I do. I try, I'll give you an example on social media. So, oftentimes I'm posting a beautiful picture, from a magical place, and just like showing what the top of the mountain looks like, instead of helping people, get to the top of the mountain. Here's how I got to this beautiful place, and, this magical view. So it's just kind of redefining, like, how can I share what I've learned how can I share my day to day, but in a way that it's going to provide value to others and inspire others. So it's not just doing it for me and my ego. It's doing it because I enjoy doing it, but it's also giving back to others and providing value for others and providing, advice, tips.
I love it. From providing value to others, how what do you value most in yourself?
Um, just striving to be better than yesterday. My
Hmm.
ability to self motivate myself and, um, yeah, just work hard day in and day out, and not allow myself to get down. To allow myself to be the best version of myself, so that I can exude that energy into the world.
Would you say you value that most in others?
Definitely. I 100% value other people, bringing positive energy, and, we all rise by lifting each other up. So I think I value that a
Mm.
ton when, others help you, others provide, safety and security, others provide value to you, without looking for anything in return.
Thanks. Ah, that's beautiful. What would you say is your biggest kind of weakness or biggest fear at the moment?
Biggest weakness, and again, it's something I've worked on over the years, but is like slowing down and realizing that, to be better, you do need to slow down some. Um, and, it's also not, during the Ironman years, I was very self-absorbed. I was doing everything for myself to reach this goal. And, ultimately it wasn't super satisfying because I wasn't doing enough for others. So it's making sure that, while I do enjoy like defining my days, I also enjoy giving back and,
Hmm.
adding value and inspiring others. So having a healthy blend of those two.
That's brilliant. What in that would that be probably the biggest thing you'd say you're gonna like you continue focusing on and would advise your future self in like this is what still keep kind of the priorities?
Yeah, definitely. I'm 40 now, so being a competitive athlete, my years are very limited. So, yeah, there's definitely a transition happening right now where I'm doing a lot of the things I do more for lifestyle, and just for me to live a long, happy, healthy life. And in doing that, giving back to others and sharing my lessons along the way.
I love it. You seem like very in control. You seem like you've got it all figured out. Everything's kind of like bang, like I know what I'm doing. Would you say that's how it feels, or that's how it is inside you, like internally, how you approach it?
Uh, it definitely feels that way now, but we all
Hmm.
have thriving and we all have surviving life chapters, and it's not going to be this way forever. It wasn't this way forever, and
Hmm.
I'm just kind of embracing it as it is. I think oftentimes we derail ourselves, and like there's going to be things that derail you in life, loved ones getting sick or whatever. So, um yeah, again, I'm trying to control what I can. And
Hmm.
when there's some outside circumstances that come into play, then I'm going to resort to things I know that have brought me happiness for years, which are movement, the recovery things that I do, being around positive people, being in a positive environment. So, I just
Hmm.
know there's things I can resort to that will, bring me back to me.
I love that. When you said kind of people, obviously we do derail ourselves. What would you say kind of the biggest culprits of that?
I mean, there's a lot. It's pounding yourself into the ground. It's
Hmm.
overeating. It's trying to, get not enough sleep, partying too hard, um, being around the wrong people, being in the wrong environments, like a late night party scene. And none of
Yeah.
these things are horrible, but if you do them too often, it's going to become your new routine, and that's not a good routine for
Hmm.
inner happiness.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think it's pretty, it's become pretty obvious that these things are kind of like, things that we can have a little bit of, but balance is obviously critical around them. Um, when you kind of mention obviously control, would you say like it becomes a kind of a sticky word this one, but kind of coping mechanisms because some people kind of see them as very kind of negative, kind of like why do you have a coping mechanism? But in a way, they have to become kind of everybody has them, and so they become very natural. And would you say kind of obviously because you try and control so much and obviously control the controllables is a huge phrase at the moment and very like you could say in trend but you know these coping mechanisms, do you view them as kind of like very natural things, and that is it kind of a need to control, or is it something you just kind of naturally approach what's like what's best for you me?
Yeah, I mean, I think coping mechanisms are natural. I just think there's so much influence, from peers, from marketing, that sometimes lead us down the wrong path for coping instead of
Mm-hmm.
us, going from the inside out and figuring out, what is it really that is like bothering us, and fixing that instead of resorting on, booze, sex, late night partying, overeating, any of these things that, provide like a short dopamine hit, but the fall from that is going to be even worse afterwards. So yeah, it's understanding like what is broken, how did it break, and what can I do that is healthy and a positive behavior to fix it instead of using something else is that coping mechanism.
I mean, you're delving into deep waters here. We can go anywhere with that. In that, look at the health world now, and we're treating our symptoms with with medicine or whatever, and taking pills after pills, and we're not really treating the solution, or even looking at the solution, like you said, and we're trying to fix so much externally. Oh, like how do I get a new partner? How do I get new friends? How do I go out and control this external situation with all these external things when the problem's internally and you can't ever fix that. So I 100% agree. And then that also comes down massively to your diet, how you're looking after your body.
Yep.
How would you kind of advise people to, what's probably, I know it's a stupid question, but what would you say is like the first thing, like let's look at in terms of controlling yourself internally?
Yeah, diet is huge, just not having an inflammatory diet. So, I mean, for me, the biggest key to nutrition is to some degree putting eating on autopilot. I don't meal prep, but I mean, that's one of the reasons why meal prep works well. What I do is, I source wherever I am, like 4 or 5 restaurants that I really enjoy. I find menu items that are satiating but healthy that I really enjoy. And I don't stray from that. Like I go to those restaurants. Maybe every couple of weeks I'll go to a new place, but yeah, for the most part, I'm putting eating on autopilot so I don't overeat and I
Mm-hmm.
don't eat the wrong things. If you fill your pantry with lots of junk and you have access to it, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're going to break and you're going to eat that. So, I think it comes down to really just putting it on autopilot and not having too many decisions around overeating or eating the wrong things.
I love it. Reducing decision making to make life a lot easier. I'm getting the big vibe of that. um, Penultimate kind of topic. What would you kind of your biggest advice be around recovery? Because obviously it's very important to you.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest advice is what is something that you can do on a regular basis? What do you have access to? Like in Manchester, you probably have access to cold water on a regular basis. And, if you can find a spot, maybe I'm telling you something you should try. If you can find a spot, that's convenient to get to every single day, where you can, get to your car soon afterwards to warm up or back to your house to take a hot shower. Um, incorporating cold exposure, sitting in that cold water for 3 to 5 minutes every single day. But, if you live in Florida, in the US, and it's always warm water, obviously that's not an easy option. You'd have to buy ice every single day to do an ice bath. So, and, cryotherapy every single day gets very expensive. So,
Mm-hmm.
maybe for that person, it's yoga or stretching where, They can fit it into their regular routine. They can do it every single night at 5:30, and that's their recovery routine. So it really
Hmm.
comes down to what is sustainable, what can you build into your lifestyle, what's feasible, and doing it on a regular basis. I mean, stretching, percussion guns, Epsom salt baths, foam
Hmm.
rollers. I mean, there's a million things that all are going to be better than doing nothing. So
Hmm.
what fits in with your routine, and do you have time for every single day?
That's such bang on advice for everyone listening. Like that's so important to hear. We were like, funny enough, we were looking at going to like looking at some reservoirs and stuff like that to go swimming recently. So I'm gonna have to, you know, use that inspiration
Let me know if you
from
do.
you to go out. Yeah, we'll do. Final question. We ask this at the end of every podcast. What makes you more than just an Ironman athlete, a CrossFit athlete? What makes you human?
um I mean, I think feelings are what make you
Hmm.
human, like feeling things. uh and I think so often, like, high level athletes are looked at as superhuman.
Hmm.
They're looked at as, they have, and some do have genetic disposition to being a good basketball player, obviously, if you're tall. But like an
Hmm.
Ironman athlete, a lot of these different sports are just like grunt work and focus sports. And if you see anyone who's elite at anything, it just means that they have a superpower ability to focus on one thing at a time, and like just cut out all of the distractions. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's what separates what people consider to be superhuman with average, is someone who just has the ability to focus on one thing at a time, do that really well, and block out all of the noise.
Can you cultivate that superpower focus?
You definitely can. It just requires practice.
Hmm.
And for me, again, it was Iron Man that taught me to like extreme focus and cutting out distractions. And there's also activities like, I mean, mountain biking for me is an activity that you have to be in the moment doing it because there's risk involved.
Hmm.
Rock climbing, there's risk involved. So, there are activities that you can pick that will force you into this state of flow and this focused state. Meditation, obviously, is another form of that, where you have to tune out all of the distractions to just be. So, I mean, that's something easy that anyone can, not easy, but it's something anyone can do in practice.
Yeah, you heard it here. Go, like, I think that's really cool advice, and I haven't heard that before. That is the separate. That's the key skill to all that. I love that. Well, people, everyone listening, you heard it first. Go get in the present moment with whatever you're doing. But yeah, Eric, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Elliot. This was great. Let me know if you hop in that cold water in England.
I will do, definitely. It'll be very cold to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Thank you for coming on, Eric.
Have a good one, Elliot.
Brilliant. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.